Old Qin, I can't go on like this. Let's send Xian to the town health center again. Under the southern of Shanao village, Wei Lan sits on the edge of a kong in a small dilapidated adobe yard. With red eyes, he looked at the blushing second daughter Qin Xian lying there. Qin Xian, 16 years old this year, suffered from a strange disease 6 years ago after a serious injury. He often suffers from high fever and sleepiness. Every time I fall asleep, it ranges from 1 or 2 days to as many as 3 to 5 days. I have been to the village clinic and the town's health center. No one can tell why. It's not weird that I can't find the cause. It's even more weird. Every time I wake up from a high fever, this girl is like a okay person. But as the 3 of her parents and elder brothers, she suffered a serious crime. I don't have to worry about it. After 6 years, I spent a lot of money just for her medical treatment. It was not easy for a rural family in the 1980s to have enough food and clothing. You can imagine how much money you can have. There is another elder brother on Qin Xian, who is 19 years old this year, and he hasn't said his wife yet. The family was too poor, and there was a medicine jar like Qin Xian that burned money. There is a girl in Shili Baxiang, who would like his old Qin family. At home, there is no money. The middle-aged man Qin Kuiyang standing on the side, clenched his fists, his thin and dark face was full of guilt and self-blame. Every time I look at my girl like this, why doesn't his father's heart hurt? A penny stumps the hero, and there is no money at home, even if he wants to send his girlfriend to be treated, he can't do it. As for relatives and friends in the village, he has also seen through these years. The ancestors of the old Qin family have lived in Shanao village for generations. The cousin is not counted. There are many blood relatives in his family alone. His parents, Qin Xian's grandparents, had 6 children in total. He came second, with an older sister on top, 3 younger brothers, and a younger sister at the end. The 6 brothers and sisters are all married. In addition to his married sister and sister, he has 3 brothers in the village. There are rules in the old Qin's family, parents are not separated, so 6 years ago, Qin Kuiyang's family of 4 also lived in the old courtyard. However, as soon as the news of Qin Xian suffering from a strange illness came out, the old Qin's family, who had parents in both families, made an exception. Because of fear of being dragged down, the Qin family's old couple both decided to split Qin Kuiyang's family of 4 into singles. For this, the old Qin's family was jabbed in the backbone for a while by the villagers. The old man of the Qin family, who has always been a good face, has not been out of the house for 3 full months. Such an attitude of not wanting to be contaminated, go to them to borrow money? Obviously unrealistic and impossible. The truth is the same. After 6 years, Qin Kuiyang has never spoken, but he has never borrowed a cent. Brothers are like this, let alone others. Daddy, my little sister, it's been 3 days, according to the past, she. Qin Wenjun's mood is also very low. He also loves his younger sister who is a few years younger. He has been guarding him since he was a child. No matter who it is in the village, he only needs to move his sister. He can take a stick and go desperately with people. In this home, he loves his little sister Qin Xian no less than his parents. In 6 years, he tried every means to make money. But, in 1980, he, a rural child, wanted to earn money so easily. Some people may say, go to work outside, but in this era, work is very expensive. In order to get a job, many people in the city go up and down, trusting relationships everywhere, and they may not be able to get things. Besides, Qin Wenjun would not go even if he got a job by hitting the universiade. After all, the time of my sister's illness is uncertain. At first, it happened every half a month. In the past 1 or 2 years, it was often 2 or 3 days, 4 or 5 days. Mom and Dad are going to go to the ground, leaving my sister at home alone. In case of illness, no one is around, what should I do if I bump into it? It is precisely because of this kind of restraint that Qin Erjia's life has become more and more difficult. A family of 4. They haven't made a new dress in 4 or 5 years. Every year, more than half of the food is sold. There is no way to go to the hospital if there is no money, but once the family has some money, the 3 of them will immediately think of taking Qin Xian to the doctor. The money is spent, the illness is not getting better, and it is getting more and more serious. This is a vicious circle. At this time Qin Wenjun said this, and his parents knew what he meant. Wants Qin Xianqiang to survive. As usual, Qin Xian usually wakes up within 1 to 5 days of high fever and lethargy. Although very helpless and distressed, the only thing they can do is to pray that Qin Xian will not have any problems this time, and the time will be as short as possible. Maybe God heard their prayers. That night, Qin Xian's parents and brother had just fallen asleep, but Qin Xian, who had been asleep for more than 3 days, woke up. The moment he opened his eyes, 2 clusters of blood-red flames jumped in his dark eyes, and disappeared completely in the blink of an eye. Sat on the Kong, she moved her stiff limbs. An excited smile appeared on the thin face. Finally, the transformation was successful. The deep and hoarse voice was filled with excitement and excitement. 6 years of muddle-headedness, others don't know the reason, but she herself knows very well. Everything must start from an accident 6 years ago, when Qin Xian was still living in the old courtyard of the old Qin's house. The adults have all gone to the ground, and there are only a few small carrot heads left in Yu reading www.yuyuganshu.com. Because of a hard-boiled egg, she was pushed by several cousins who snatched the egg, and the back of her head hit the eaves steps. Several little saw her bleeding, all of them were terrified, and they ran out of sight in an instant. When the adult came back, Xiao Qin Xian was dying, just as the little guy fell out of breath. A wisp of soul from the mainland of Kyushu entered the lost body. Then, she survived, but from then on, Xiao Qin Xian was no longer the same as before. The soul from the mainland of Kyushu has the same name as the little guy, but the same name has a different life. The soul Qin Xian is in the mainland of Kyushu. That is the daughter of a big family born with a golden key. Wears silk and satin, eats delicacies of mountains and seas, and has been pampered by the elders of the family since childhood. Because they were born in the strongest primitive ancient tribe in Kyushu, although the primitive ancient tribe cannot cultivate immortals, they have a unique bloodline and magical powers. It is precisely because of this bloodline magical power that at the age of 20, she has gained a good reputation among the various immortal cultivating forces in the Kyushu continent. But, her luck seems to be bad. Secretly ran to the forbidden area in the clan that hadn't been opened for thousands of years, trying to fully awaken the blood in the body. The result was very tragic. The power of the bloodline was awakened by something in the forbidden ground, and the violent power was simply not something her small body could bear. Her body was torn and shattered by strength, but fortunately the soul ran out, and also ran to the earth with the exotic treasures of the primitive ancient clan Forbidden Land, reborn through Xiao Qin Xian's body. More coincidentally, the strange treasure she brought had an unexpected reaction with the black iron plate that Xiao Qin Xian wore on her neck. Father, brother, I'm really better. I won't do it again in the future. Feeling the gazes of his father and brother, the smile on Qin Xian's face grew stronger. She is well, not only is she well, she will lead her family to lead a good life like never before. Really good. They have been dreaming all these years, hoping that Qin Xian can be well, can call them sweetly as before, and can be soft and cute at them. However, all the hopes and disappointments in the past 6 years have made them unable to believe it even if they heard her. Well, I also had a very long dream, a very magical dream. It is related to the god of the river. In 6 years, while her body was being transformed by the 2 big treasures, her soul had already learned some basic things about this world from the life chats of the people around her and her parents and brothers. Has also been thinking about how to explain if she recovers one day. Mysterious Dreamland River God's statement is what she thinks is the best and the easiest to be accepted by her parents and brothers. The countryside in the 1980s only experienced 10 years of turbulence. Everyone avoided talking about ghosts and gods, and feared them like a tiger. But some things that have a long heritage and are deeply rooted are not so easy to wear off. Especially in the rural environment, although no one dares to say about ghosts and gods, if something strange happens, people will subconsciously think about it. She made this excuse. First, she let her 6 years of ambiguity give her parents an explanation, and also pave the way for some mysterious things that will appear on her in the future. And her parents and elder brothers have experienced that turbulent era, and they are full of fear of that era. In this way, not only can we ensure that the parents and brothers will not say a word to the outside world, but they can also have a spectrum in their hearts, so that she won't have to bother to think about excuses in the future. Dream? Is it related to God of River? Both father and son were really surprised, and quickly glanced at each other. Envy, don't talk, wait a while and then speak slowly. Qin Kuiyang's complexion was a bit solemn, and the smile on Qin Daijin's face was reduced a lot. They are really afraid of this kind of ghosts and gods. It is really that turbulent 10 years, too many things have happened that scared them. After a while, Wei Lan walked in with a bowl of warm wild vegetable porridge. Looking at the wild vegetable porridge she brought in, smelling the fragrance of the rice and vegetables, Qin Xian was touched again. If she remembers well, her family is running out of food. During the recent period, my family only ate one meal a day, and it was all porridge with wild vegetables. To be precise, it was a vegetable soup with fewer rice grains and more wild vegetables. But now the porridge brought in by my old lady is full of white rice and few wild vegetables. The girl will eat it quickly, and the mother will give it to you if it is not enough. Qin Kuiyang and Qin Daijin besides swallowed a few drools without a trace when they smelled the scent of rice porridge. With such a ratio of wild vegetable porridge, they don't remember when they last ate it. A bowl of wild vegetable porridge is in her hand, but she can feel the love of the three relatives in the same room. Thank you, mother, I will definitely earn a lot of food for my family in the future, so that you can eat meat and white rice for all meals. Wei Lan smiled and nodded again and again, but there was a deep pain in the depths of her somewhat muddy eyes. The girl's illness has always been a big stone to her heart. Although the girl at this moment is doing better than ever, she doesn't think she is really all right in her heart. Just when she finished eating, and Wei Lan just wanted to take the bowl and get her a bowl, Qin Xian stopped her. Mother, I'm full. Sit down, I have something to say. As soon as she said this, Qin Kuiyang winked at the son beside him. Qin Daijin quickly got up and walked out of the hall, looked around the small courtyard, and then returned to close the door of the hall. The behavior of his son made Wei Lan a little confused. Brother, father and mother, I am really better this time. I will never get sick again in the future. The three of them are still suspicious. The three of them were dumbfounded for a long time until she finished talking in detail about the magical dreams she had thought of earlier. Sister, the black iron plate you mentioned, isn't it the one I touched in the river before? The focus of her dream theory is the black iron metal. Was touched by Qin Wenjun in the river. Xiao Qin Xian at that time looked very fond of it. A sister like Qin Wenjun was naturally very pleased and gave Xiao Qin Xian a small cloth package. Got another small rope for Xiao Qin Xian to hang around her neck. Also quietly told her that this was a peace symbol presented by the god of the river. This is of course Qin Wenjun's nonsense, but Qin Xian let this nonsense blossom. Yes, the god of the river said, since I have a chance to get this peace talisman, then give it to me. But it's not for nothing. I need to be with him as an apprentice for 6 years. That's why I have been silly and stupid for the past 6 years. In fact, I just went to learn from the god of the river. Furthermore, the river said that I will be safe for the rest of my life, and he will bless me in the dark. The three of them were fooled by her meal, and they didn't know whether to believe it or not. Believe it, all this is too mysterious, say or not, they really hope Qin Xian can do well. And as far as Qin Xian's current state is, it's better than before. I don't know how many times it is. I don't know if I don't believe it at all. After a long time www.mtlnovel.com Qin Kuiyang opened his mouth to break the silence. Then what did the river teach you? As soon as he said this, Qin Xian's heart was relieved. Dad chose to believe it, and Qin Wenjun and Wei Lan nearby were also staring at her curiously, wanting to know what she had learned. Distinguish medicine and medicated diet. This is her ability in her previous life. At that time, her bloodline power was Sunhuo. In order to train her, the family recruited many alchemy masters from the 9 provinces to teach. At only 20 years old, she has been able to refine the 9-grade pill, and is known as the super genius who is most likely to be promoted to the pill sage before the age of 50. Although the medicinal materials on the Kyushu continent are quite different from those on the earth, when she was studying alchemy, she was acquainted with all the medicinal materials in the Kyushu continent. Although it is somewhat different from the earth, as long as any medicinal material passes through her nose, she can immediately find the corresponding effect and usage method from the treasure house of medicinal material knowledge in her brain. Although it can't treat illness and save people like Chinese medicine, it's not a problem to go to the mountains to find medicinal materials in the future. Furthermore, discerning medicine is only one of her abilities, and it's also a saying she used to prepare medicinal meals. The primitive ancient people, except for their special abilities, are the same as ordinary humans for other conveniences. They also have to eat and drink lassa. Medicated food, that is one of the life skills that the ancients can best grasp. The meals made with medicinal materials and ingredients are not only delicious, but also have powerful health effects. Although the earth is all ordinary medicinal materials that do not enter the flow, the effect is not as powerful as in the previous life, but the effect of warming and replenishing the body is definitely there. The point is that the ancient clan's special medicinal cooking method makes the food very delicious. The current Qin Xian is no longer what it used to be. Even if the ancient body is still very weak, the strength it possesses is far beyond that of ordinary people. Moreover, as an ancient clan with aloof fighting talent, her skill is not blown out. In the beginning of the Kyushu continent, she had never lost a fight among her peers. I want to hunt some pheasants, hares, etc. Isn't that the same as playing? As soon as she said she did it, she grabbed a back basket and a worn sickle in the hut next to the farm tools. The small yard of her house is located on the southern of the village, and behind the yard is a path uphill. On weekdays, many people from the village come to gather wild vegetables on the hillside behind her house. It is early today, and there is no one on the hillside. Qin Xian, carrying a basket, rushed all the way, feeling the long-lost sense of strength in her small body, and her face was full of smiles. Although she is not as good as the pinnacle of her previous life, since she has relived her life, she is already ready to practice again. About 10 minutes or so, the trail has come to an end. The road further inside was covered by weeds and dwarf shrubs because no one was walking around all the year round. Boys, here I am. Regardless of whether there is a way or not, she is waving her sickle, all the way forward. The place where no one is harmful all the year round is good. The wild vegetables on the side are bigger than the ones on the hillside below. Qin Xian was in a good mood. She swept through the past, and she picked up a lot of wild vegetables that were common in the village. Also harvested a small part of the medicinal materials that she recognized by her appearance. These medicinal materials, although she can't name them on the earth, she knows all about their effects and functions. The quality is very ordinary, but it can be used to make simple medicated meals. It's just that when I walked this way, all I found were vegetarian materials, but she didn't see any of the meat she was thinking of. Doesn't you know that I'm here, ran to hide, right? The mountains and forests around Shankel village are rich in products. She knows that she often talks about it when people in the village chat. What kind of mountain pheasant rabbit, roe deer wild boar or something? However, she wandered in the mountains for more than an hour, except for bugs, birds, and other prey games. Look for a while, if you don't have one, you can only go home first. She has just recovered from a serious illness. If she runs out of sight, she is afraid that her parents and brothers will be worried. So, she must go back before noon. Xixixi suo suo. Just when she was about to go home, there was a small movement in her ear. She stopped immediately and listened attentively, but in the blink of an eye, she caught the source of the movement. I saw the corner of her mouth hooked, and the sickle in her hand slammed into the place where the small sound came out with the sound of breaking wind. There was a dull sound, followed by the movement of the prey fluttering. With this sickle, she captured a fat pheasant with grey feathers, which looked like 3 or 4 catties. I have meat for lunch today. Picked up the fat pheasant from the grass, threw it into the back basket, and went down the same way. When they reached the end of the original path, there were already 2s and 3s of women and half-old children digging wild vegetables on the hillside. When they heard the movement, they raised their heads to look at Qin Xian. This is so hard to see, everyone fell into a brief loss of consciousness. Qin Xian is a celebrity in Shankel village. It's just that the name doesn't sound good. Isn't this a silly girl from Qin Erjia? It's she who is right, why did she run into the mountains? The silly girl of Qin Erjia, she has heard this name countless times, and every time she hears it, her heart will be depressed. Compared with the titles of the flattering super genius and the alchemy master in the previous life, this title should not be too harsh. Ignored these people, she stepped down the mountain. When passing by a group of women and little girls, the little girl's eyes were very sharp and noticed that something was moving in her back basket. Mother, there are living creatures in her back basket. I can't help but catch some game in the mountains. The little girl is a scheming girl, but she didn't say anything when she noticed it, she just muttered to the woman beside her in a low voice. Although her voice is small, Qin Xian, who has a deep ear and eyes, can still hear her clearly. The brows can't help but frown, feeling that something is going to happen. Sure enough, the next moment, I saw the woman rushing up, and came to Qin Xian in 3 or 5 steps, when she could clearly see the fat pheasant in her back basket. Greed flashed across the woman's face, she swallowed subconsciously, as if she was thinking of the taste of stewed pheasant. With greed, the woman's hands can't control it at all. Reached out and grabbed it in the back basket. Qin Xian, who was prepared for a long time, would let her succeed. "Aunt Qiwa, I caught this, what do you mean?" When she spoke, everyone around her was shocked again. Stared at her as if watching a Western trick, and a word came out in his mind almost at the same time. "The silly girl from Qin Erjia, how do you talk?" Tian Qiwa, who was standing in front of her, reacted quickly, thinking of the fat pheasant in her heart, and she was not surprised. The eyes rolled around a few times, and he screamed and cursed with his waist akimbo. "What did you catch?" "It was clearly the trap set by your uncle Erzuza yesterday." "Good idiot, you shamelessly steal other people's traps." "Traps, the villagers will set up some, they are used to catch small game, but also often steal other people's traps. After all, there are a lot of people in the village who are greedy for petty and cheap, and cannot resist the temptation of flesh." Tian Qiwa's voice is very sharp, and the people around him heard it caught in the trap. Knew that it must be a good thing, so they came over. "Ah, what a fat pheasant! This is more than 4 catties, right?" The people on the side yelled, "Yu reading www. The people surrounding yuyuganshu.com also wrapped Qin Xian and Tian Qiwa in the circle. Qin Xian was amused by Tian Qiwa's shameless words. "My uncle Erzuzi, when will I fall into the trap?" "Yes, when will Qin Erjia set up a condom?" The gazes of the people around suddenly became weird, and those little eyes swish, making a cheeky woman like Tian Qiwa blush. Shankel village is not very big. The people in the village have been getting along for a long time. Who doesn't know who is capable? Tian Kuiwa's husband is Qin Erzhu, a cousin of Qin Xian's family, and his name sounds pretty simple. But this person is not honest at all. On the contrary, he is very cunning and shameless. He is a famous lazy scorpion in the village. Said that he was asked to go to that house to take advantage. He was good at it, setting up traps, and putting off covers. That was absolutely nonsense. Although Qin Xian has been stupid in front of people for the past 6 years, his soul is not stupid at all. It is very real to see people. She knows all the people in the village, and she also knows how good or bad these people are. When will you care about him, anyway? This is caught in my trap. Is not a family, do not enter a family. This is definitely the most famous saying. Tian Kuiwa and Qin Erzhu are both famous figures in the village. The male is a leper, and the female is a rascal. No, I started to be muddled, trying to forcibly take this fat pheasant as his own, completely ignoring the truth. You saw it. A hint of ridicule was outlined at the corner of Qin Xian's mouth. Big guys all watched me come out of it, come and tell you that your trap is there. Have we seen it in the past? Yes. Tian Kuiwa, tell me, if your condom comes down, let's go take a look. If it's really yours, we will all testify to you. Tian Kuiwa is an unreasonable gangster, who is not very popular in the village. Although the big guys are greedy when they see the fat pheasant, but the bottom line is still there. Someone else's grabbing is someone else's. Tian Kuiwa is definitely a strange flower, greed has always been on the face, and it will show it undisguisedly. When the people around him said this, Tian Kuiwa could not say a word for a long time. This is my house anyway. I can't think of an explanation, so I just splash around. This is Tian Kuiwa's consistent method. Dead fool, losing money, little bitch, you shamelessly steal my trap. She scolded, and the 8 or 9-year-old daughter next to her scolded. The fool loses money, and quickly return our fat pheasant. This little girl completely ignored her. She is also one of the money losers who often talk about the old shrews and ladies in the village. The two mothers scolded people, each with a loud voice. The old curse, the younger one will inevitably follow. Qin Xian's face is getting more and more ugly. After 2 lifetimes, has she ever been insulted like this? The heart of fighting began to agitate, and the power in the body began to roar. Snapped. There was a crisp sound, and bright red fingerprints appeared on Tian Kuiwa's face in an instant. Qin Xian's slap made the surrounding air still, and everyone's breath was subconsciously held. The shameless thing, you said it was yours. Okay, if you have the ability, you can follow me for a walk in the mountains. If you are brave enough, I will give you this pheasant. If you are not brave enough, you will get rid of me immediately. The temper of the fighting ancients is fierce and does not care about the consequences. If you feel unhappy, then you must release it. As the saying goes, I will break the 10,000 laws with one force, and I will fight if I refuse to accept it. What? You idiot dare to hit me? I dare to beat the elders, the big guys come to me to judge. Qin Xian laughed out loud as Tian Kuiwa screamed. Be reasonable with you, you have to mess with me. Now that I am muddled, you want to reason with me again. Who is used to you? As soon as she said her brilliant words, the people watching the theater around couldn't help but laugh. Isn't that the case? I just said, you have to be muddled. Now people are fierce, and you have to be reasonable again. Do you really think that Tian Kuiwa is the only one in the world? I can't tell Qin Xian, Tian Kuiwa's mother and daughter are too lazy to break, and those who want to fight Qin Xian with their teeth and claws. Qin Xian would naturally not be persuaded, on the contrary, she was very excited. After all, she had never been afraid of anyone. Tian Kuiwa, do you dare to move my little girl, I will break your leg. Just when Qin Xian was about to get started, he roared from far to near. The voice is familiar, her elder brother Qin Wenjun is here. Qin Wenjun is a fierce man in the village. He treats outsiders very fiercely, and he never cares whether he is a man or a woman, or whether he is young or old. As long as he dared to bark his teeth at his family, he would not explain it, and rushing up would be a beating. Especially when it comes to Qin Xian, Qin Wenjun's combat effectiveness can at least double or triple. At the beginning, their family was driven out by the old Qin family, and his uncles and cousins often scolded Qin Xian and bullied Qin Xian. It's okay if he doesn't know. Once he knows, he will definitely go to the old Qin's house with a stick. My uncles have been beaten by him a lot. The two old guys of the old Qin family have nothing to do with this fierce grandson. The more you scold and the more you beat them, the more ruthless he will be. The palms of the palms and the backs of the hands are all meat, and the old guy can't really kill the grandson. But this grandson will beat his uncle to death. So, after coming down several times, the people from the old Qin family only dared to scold Qin Xian secretly at home, but they only dared to scold in their hearts when they were outside. I was afraid that being unshielded would be spread to Qin Wenjun's ears. Everyone panicked and avoided when they saw the fierce man arrive. Big soldier, I don't want to kill the fool. Tian Kuo, who opened her teeth and claws just now, saw the fierce face of Qin Wenjun immediately persuaded when her eyes were breathing fire. Quickly backed away and opened the distance. As for her daughter, even at the moment Qin Wenjun's voice came, she shrank behind Tian Kuo and hid strictly. Who do you think is a fool? Qin Wenjun roared again. No, I didn't say who is a fool. You heard it wrong, you heard it wrong. Tian Kuo's guts are almost broken at this time. Although Qin Wenjun has seen a few outbreaks, she has never been a fire attractor. At this time, she regretted it in her heart. Why can't I control my greed for a while? The fool of Qin Ergia, is that something she can provoke? I will write this down for you today. If I dare to bully my sister in the future, I will demolish your broken house. Tian Kuo dared to say again, pulling the girl behind him, and ran toward the village without digging any wild vegetables. I lost my shoes a few times because I was so flustered. Seeing her so embarrassed, Qin Xian couldn't help laughing, let alone the people watching the excitement around. And Qin Wenjun, who was ferocious to eat people just now, turned his head to look at Qin Xian, his ferocious expression disappeared instantly. The honest smile is full of gentle www.mentalnovel.com. Sister, did you go there? I didn't see you when I went home just now, but I was so anxious. You can't run around after recovering from a serious illness. The people on the side of, upon hearing this, combined with Qin Xian's different past today, they surrounded them again in surprise. What did you say, the soldier? Your sister is getting better. Qin Wenjun answered all these people's questions with kindness. The onlookers who were quasi-believed all expressed their joy. The two brothers and sisters didn't stay long. Qin Xian still wanted to go back to eat the stew. The news that Qin Xian was ill soon spread throughout the village. At first, some people didn't believe it very much, but after hearing that she could speak, recognize people, and communicate with people normally, they all believed it. Of course it was spread that Tian Kuo stopped Qin Xian to Qin Xian's fat pheasant. For this reason, some episodes appeared later. But these episodes, Qin Xian at the moment does not know. After the two brothers and sisters returned home, their parents still did not come back in the field. Qin Xian asked her elder brother to kill the pheasant. She began to sort out the wild vegetables and medicinal materials that she had harvested in the morning. Not long after, Qin Wenjun carried the washed and stripped pheasant into the kitchen. Before had time to speak, he saw Qin Xian taking the pheasant, waving a kitchen knife, and quickly chopping it into small pieces. The movements are more proficient than Qin Wenjun. With the explanation last night, Qin Wenjun was only briefly surprised and relieved. The girl learns to cook medicated food with God of River, and she will definitely cook her food frequently. It's not surprising to have such a behavior. In the past 10 minutes or so, Qin Xian has stewed the pheasant and added several medicinal materials that she selected. These medicinal materials can be used for consumption without concocting them. After the pheasant has been processed, she also mashed the wild vegetables on the side, planning to stew the chicken in a while. Boil some hot water to make cold dishes. And Qin Wenjun, who watched her series of actions on the side, believed her words of God of the river last night even more. After all, his sister has been silly since she was 10 years old, and she has never learned these things at all. There must be a reason for being so proficient now. Sister, there is food here, you did it together. Food. Just now, she was patronizing pheasants and wild vegetables, but she didn't pay attention to other things in the kitchen. Seeing at this time, Qin Wenjun unfastened the lid of the rice jar, which contained a small half jar of brown rice. His expression was a little taken aback. She checked this morning, but there was not a single grain of rice in the rice tank. Father asked the 10 kilograms of brown rice borrowed by Lord Shui Sheng. The Shui Shenjai in his mouth, Qin Xian knows, is her grandfather, his own grandfather's brother. This old man is not bad. He has helped her family a lot over the years, and this old man will always help her a little bit when her family can't open the pot several times. Even though they come down with new grain every year, they will pay it back. Compared with the parents and uncles in the old yard, it is still better. I don't know how many times. Outsiders can still help when their home is most difficult. Those blood relatives have never lent them a grain of rice no matter how difficult they are since they moved out of the old yard. Every year, when new grain comes down, their family will send some to the old yard. After all, her father is the son of the old too, and they are separated, and the food provided to the elderly is still available every year. She is not dissatisfied with the food that should be taken, but dissatisfied with the practice of the blood relatives in the old yard. The chicken will be simmered in a while. Brother, you will bring a bowl to Shui Sheng. Become. Qin Wenjun is ferocious, but he is a man who understands things. Over the years, Shui Shenjai has taken care of his family firmly in his heart, always thinking about waiting for the opportunity in the future, and repaying him well. As for the old courtyard, he has rarely passed by in these years. Even if it was in the past, he would go to find trouble. Don't treat them as family members at all. Near lunchtime, the fragrant chicken came out of the pot. She first took out a large bowl and asked her eldest brother to give it away. Took out all the rest, and then boiled water. When Qin Wenjun and his parents came back, a large bowl of chicken and 2 cold wild vegetables were already on the table in the hall. Daddy, big brother, sit down. She got up and went to the kitchen to serve food. Daddy, how is it? The little girl did this by herself. My mouth is running out just by smelling the smell. Looking at the dishes on the table, Qin Kuiyang's eyes widened, and Qin Wenjun on the side showed a salivating expression. Hey, big brother, father and mother, what are you doing while sitting? Watching the girl walk in from outside carrying 2 bowls of rice, Wei Lan's eyes turned red. For many years, she has been fantasizing that her daughter will recover health one day. Now that her wish has come true, her daughter is not only healthy, she can cook, but she also has such a fragrant meal. This is the first time in his life he has eaten a meal made by his daughter. Hey, sit down now, sit down now. Raised his hand and quickly wiped away the tears from the corner of his eyes, and walked towards the dining table with a smile on his face. Qin Kuiyang next to was in the same mood as his wife at this time, but it was a man, no matter how happy and moved, he would not wipe his tears like his wife. Qin Wenjun was very happy to see his parents like this. Since they moved here to live, their parents have not had such a pure smile on their faces. Little sister's illness has always been a big rock in their hearts. Now that there are no stones, the days to come will definitely get better and better. No, the little girl only recovered for the first day, and they all had meat. What are you stupid kid doing standing up? Don't you go and serve your sister? After Wei Lan was happy, seeing her son standing there stupidly, she yelled and cursed badly. Soon, a family of 4 sat on the table. Qin Xian put a piece of meaty pheasant for his parents and elder brother respectively. Daddy, brother, you all have a taste of my craft. Well. The 3 of them picked up their bowls almost at the same time. I have to say that Qin Xian's craftsmanship in making medicated meals is truly extraordinary. Just one bite can directly conquer the taste of the 3 relatives. The little girl is amazing, it tastes like. It's delicious, this is definitely the best stewed chicken in my life. Wei Lan next to also nodded again and again. This tastes really good. Father, look at what you said, you are still so young now, there are still decades to come. Your daughter will be able to make more delicious chicken in the future. Ha ha ha, yes, Dad is wrong. A family of 4 laughed and laughed constantly. It would be more perfect if you could have a sip of wine. Qin Wenjun on the side of suddenly said something like this. Wei Lan rolled his eyes. As far as their family is concerned, if you can have a full bite to eat, thank goodness, and still want to drink? This year's wine is a precious thing, and it is something their family can afford. It should go well with wine. Qin Xian also knows the situation at home, and it's still a bit difficult to drink at present. But www.mtlnovel.com she has recovered now, and today is just a small test, waiting for her to let go of her hands and feet slowly. Life at home will definitely get better. Here, the family laughed and laughed, and the atmosphere was a little dull in the old yard hundreds of meters away from their yard. They all heard about Qin Xian's catch of a pheasant when he went up the mountain today. The 2 old guys are waiting for the second son to bring the chicken to come and offer it. As a result, I had almost eaten this lunch, and I couldn't see the second son. Needless to think about it, they are afraid they won't be able to eat chicken today. At this time, the old couple were angry at the dinner table, and even the grains, wauhudu, which they usually like to eat, were tasteless. After lunch in a low atmosphere, the family is preparing to rest for a while and continue to go to the ground. I heard someone shouting outside the hospital. Old Uncle Qin, is today's chicken delicious? I really envy you for having such a capable granddaughter. My family has tasted meat for almost a month. The voice fell, and Tian Kuihua, who had just had lunch, walked in from outside with a smile on her face. I was slapped in the slap by Qin Xian in the morning, and Qin Wenjun was so scared that she was sore. After returning home for a long time, she became more angry as she thought about it. This loss can't be eaten for nothing. I didn't find that Qin Wenjun went to Qin Shuisheng with a bowl of fragrant chicken. Her eyes rolled and thought of a trick to provoke a good plan. The old couple Qin Shuiyang, who was already angry in the room, their expressions became more gloomy when they heard this. Tian Kuihua, who walked into the yard, twitched her nose vigorously, did not smell the chicken, and saw the complexion of Qin Shuiyang and his wife. Knew that Qin Er's family didn't bring chicken over, but he was so happy. Seeing that no one was taking care of herself, Tian Kuihua was not upset, and she told herself that Qin Wenjun was carrying a large bowl of chicken to Qin Shuisheng's house. Among them, it is added oil and vinegar to exaggerate the deliciousness of the bowl of chicken. I guess there is half a pheasant. When she said these words, she kept secretly observing the expressions of Qin Shuiliang's old couple. Seeing getting darker and getting more and more anger in her eyes, she felt more happy in her heart. She knew that enough was enough, otherwise Qin Erjia was definitely not the first person to be scolded, but she. No one cares about me, forget it. Borrowed an excuse and turned around directly. Didn't go very far, after all, she was still waiting to watch the big show, watching the old couple go to Qin Erjia to make trouble. Little beasts without filial piety. The old lady can't spare you. It was Qin Shuiliang's old wife Lin Zhenhua who could not suppress the anger first. Seeing she patted the table next to her, she stood up angrily and rushed out of the hall. Qin Shuiliang beside not only didn't stop him, but instead let the 3 daughter-in-laws follow him, which means don't let the old lady suffer. This attitude clearly means to let the old wife go over and make a fuss. Like this kind of thing, he has done it many times before. As for why he didn't go, isn't it a good face? In addition, he claims to be the head of the old courtyard, so he will lose his status if he goes there. Tian Kuo, who had been waiting outside in the dark, saw the old lady rushing to Qin'er's house with 3 daughters-in-law. Was so excited that his hands were shaking. Forcibly endured it for a while, and saw that the 4 mother-in-law and daughter-in-law ran out for some distance. She just stepped up to keep up, and there was still too much shouting along the way, and asked the villagers to go to Qin'er's house to watch the excitement. A posture for fear that the world will not be chaotic. At this time, Qin Xian's family also finished lunch, and the mother and daughter were washing the dishes in the kitchen. The father and son sat resting under the eaves. Bang bang bang! Qin Lao Er, get out of my mother! You have no filial piety, let the little money loser come and kneel in front of the old lady and kowtow to admit his mistake. The movement of the old lady Lin was very noisy. It happened to be the noon break, and everyone in every household was at home. Hearing the movement, they all walked out of the yard. Behind the 4 of them, the old lady Lin, there was also a large army of good women with Tian Kuo. No, the courtyard door of Qin Er's house has not been opened yet, and there are many people watching the excitement outside the small courtyard. In the courtyard, Qin Kuiyang frowned when he heard the shouts outside. This voice is too familiar to him. While frowning, he also felt strange that his old lady hadn't been in his house for many years. What kind of madness is this today? The designation is for chicken. Just now when I went to deliver chicken to Lord Shui Sheng, the wife Tian Kuo saw it. Qin Wenjun's mind turned fast, and he immediately grasped the reason. Qin Kuiyang also understood after his son's mention. After so many years, their family's life has been difficult, and they have eaten chaffy vegetables every day, but they have not eaten any good things. So you don't have to worry about the old yard, anyway, you just give the food you should give every year. He almost forgot some unwritten rules for children. There are delicious foods and drinks, so I have to spare a little bit for the Jiaotang parents. Because of years of hardship and today's girl cooking for the first time, both he and Wei Lan were just happy, but forgot about it. Now that my old mother is making trouble at the door, he can't stay behind closed doors. He can only hope that the old mother can constrain a little, and don't make the trouble too ugly. Wei Lan and Qin Xian mother and daughter in the kitchen also heard the movement, put down their unwashed dishes and walked out. Qin Lao Er, unscrupulous beast, open the door. The door panel was snapped. Qin Xian's expression became gloomy as soon as he heard this call. Also knows who came from outside. But no matter who it is, who dares to insult her father so much, then he must be prepared to bear her anger. Before Qin Wenjun walked over, Qin Xian, who was furious, rushed to the door. As soon as the door opened, Mrs. Lin's hand that clapped the door didn't rush, so she slapped Qin Xian's face on the door. Little girl! Qin Wenjun was startled, and quickly reached out his hand to pull Qin Xian back a few steps. Leaped for the last time, came to Qin Xian and protected her behind him. Eyes bursting with anger, staring at Mrs. Lin firmly. Looking at Mrs. Lin again, she also reacted to the sudden change just now, and she raised her eyes to the cannibalistic look of her grandson. Was so scared that he backed away again and again, and didn't stop until he ran into the 3rd daughter-in-law. A few years ago, Qin Wenjun did not go to the old yard to make noise. He was so fierce and mighty. After a few years, he suddenly remembered that Mrs. Lin was still trembling. However, she still has 3 daughter-in-laws and most of the villagers by her side. No matter how fierce Qin Wenjun is, would he dare to beat her grandma in front of so many people? At this point, she was like an angry cock fighting, standing forward again. Although he was very powerful, he didn't dare to meet the gaze of the grandson again. Qin Lao Er, Wei Lan, you two have no filial piety. Look at this little and the little money-losing guy, what did you teach them? The complexions of Qin Kuiyang and Wei Lan are very ugly. Mother-in-law, you can eat rice indiscriminately. You can't talk nonsense in you reading www.yunsha.com. Since our family was separated, no matter how difficult the family is, there is not less than 1 grain of grain we should send to the old yard every year. Furthermore, it was you and the old man who made the decision to separate us, and our husband and wife never said anything. You just said that Lao Qin had no filial piety, and you scolded my couple for not being able to teach their children. You go to the whole village to find out, have my children done any harm? Qin Kuiyang is a simple and honest person, and his eloquence is unsatisfactory. But Wei Lan is different. When she was a girl, her family was not bad, she was knowledgeable and educated. Looked at this remark, first pointed out the old lady's nonsense, and then explained what everyone in the village knew. Without a trace, expresses the grievance of being bullied by the old courtyard. In the end, the old lady was defeated. Ask the old lady to answer no, or not to answer. Do you lose your rations? Everyone in the village knew that she did not dare to speak without conscience. As for Qin Wenjun's brothers and sisters, Qin Wenjun is more fierce, but he always stands up when he goes to make noises, and will not make unreasonable chaos. Qin Xian was a silly look a few years ago, unable to take care of himself in life, let alone doing harm. Yes, old Qin's sister-in-law, are you talking about your son and daughter-in-law's filial piety? I remember that when the food was distributed last time, they didn't even have to pay for their own food, so they sent your old couple over first. I helped give the scales. There is absolutely no shortage of weight. Speaking of these two children, I also think they are pretty good and sensible. Although the big soldiers occasionally get muddled, isn't it a lot of bullying? If the old lady is still thinking about rebuttal, some people in the surrounding crowd yelled at her. Was such a run, the old lady was even more flustered. Seeing that she was about to lose the battle, Tian Kuihua spoke up in the crowd. Girl Qin Xian, the pheasant you caught today is not small. Or you can get some milk, this family makes trouble. It doesn't look good. The sour tone was mixed with hypocritical kindness. Qin Wenjun and Qin Xian immediately caught Tian Kuihua in the crowd. They all know that Tian Kuihua secretly instigated this event in all likelihood. You wait for me. The two brothers and sisters snorted almost simultaneously in their hearts. The old lady Lin, who got the point, ignored Wei Lan's questioning, and sat down on the ground, kicking her legs violently, and patted her thighs with both hands. Shouted all of a sudden. Son, my daughter-in-law has no conscience. If you have meat to eat alone, you don't respect the elderly. My mother-in-law hasn't smelled meat for a few months. I'm coming all the way, I don't even let the door go in, and I don't even give you a sip of water. My life is bitter, my roots are bitter. Qin Kuiyang's old face flushed as she listened to her howling ghosts, and he didn't know if he was embarrassed by the old lady or angry. Today, he forgot to deliver meat to the old yard. He felt a bit wronged in his heart. But for a bite of meat, is it a bit too much to bring so many people to block the door and curse? Milk, what you said is really funny. Qin Xian walked out from behind Qin Wenjun, with a ridiculous smile on his face, bright eyes, and disdain to look at the old lady sitting on the ground kicking her legs. How many years have our two families not been in contact with each other? Why don't you know why there is no contact? In the entire Shankel village, I have never seen anyone with brothers and sisters who don't communicate with each other. In the past, the aunt and sister-in-law came back every Chinese New Year and came to my house to sit down. But you are always thinking behind you, saying that our family wants to eat or not, drink or drink, doesn't it mean that we are poor? She's not talking nonsense at all, everyone in the village knows it. And her aunt and sister-in-law, when they used to go out, they had a good relationship with her father. 6 years ago, several family members were in frequent contacts. Even after moving out, the aunt and sister-in-law came back several times, and they would come to visit and sometimes give something or something. But Mrs. Lin is a master who likes to play tricks. Aunt and sister-in-law came back, and every time they wanted to come to their house, they would be stopped by the old lady under various names. If you don't listen to greetings, the old lady will make trouble and scold. These words of disgusting poverty were passed out by the villagers when the old lady was arguing. If people can't come over, things can't be delivered naturally, they have to be handed over to the people in the old yard. However, these things were also ignored by the old lady after the aunt and sister-in-law left. After a few times, the aunt also understood and stopped bringing more things. But still, in places where the old lady can't see, try to help them secretly as much as possible. These Qinxian have always been firmly in the bottom of my heart, and the kindness should be paid back. Why do you still come here so far? Are you always confused? We can live in the same village, can it take 5 minutes to go back and forth? You've been so old for so many years, but you haven't visited the house once. Now that someone picks up a few sentences, you ran to grab food. Why do you still say that you are not allowed to enter the door all the time? The door of our house is open. If you want to sit here, what can I do? After that, her head tilted. Brother, what are you still waiting for? Why don't you go get a bowl of water for the old lady? When saving time, the people in the village really think that our family is poor and poor. Qin Wenjun turned around and walked toward the kitchen in a hurry. The words of the little girl are no worse than the words of her old lady Wei Lan, and even the old lady is more ironic and deeper. Irritated all the people who watched the excitement all around and laughed out loud. Especially that sentence, "We can live in the same village," directly points out that the old lady dislikes the poor and loves the rich, and looks down on the face of the poor son. As she said, it doesn't take 5 minutes to come back and forth. After 6 years, this old lady has never been here. Knowing that his son's family was lucky, he caught the pheasant, so he rushed to eat. Is simply shameless. Many people around me also remembered that the old lady and old man Qin were afraid of being dragged down by the sick granddaughter. I didn't get rid of the spine for a long time at that time, but now I'm doing this again. I really don't intend to be old-fashioned at all. You little bitch, my old lady you to death. Without Qin Wenjun's shock, he was ridiculed by his granddaughter. The old lady's anger rose in her heart, turned over and got up, waving her arms and rushing towards Qin Xian. Mother, have you had enough trouble? Seeing that the girl was about to be beaten, Qin Kuiyang was not silent, and quickly stepped forward, protecting Qin Xian, and blocking himself in front. Snapped. The slap of the old lady landed firmly on Qin Kuiyang's face. The scorching pain caused Qin Kuiyang's anger to come out. He knows how heavy the slap is. If it really falls on his daughter, then it's still worth it. New hatred and old hatred, the dissatisfaction that has been accumulated in my heart for many years, exploded. Mother, what face do you have to come to me to make trouble? Why is Xian Xian sick? You know best in your heart. If it weren't for the sons of the third and fourth sons, and your precious grandchildren, he pushed Xian Xian to his head with a heavy hand, and suffered serious injuries. Will Xian Xian suffer these 6 years of sin? Now that Xian Xian has recovered from a serious illness, shouldn't she get a pheasant to feed her? Wow! What Qin Kuiyang said about www.mtlnovel.com. The villagers didn't know that the old lady Lin said to the outside world that Qin Xian accidentally fell. I never thought I was harmed by my cousin. Everyone's eyes changed when they looked at the 4 people in the old courtyard. I didn't care about them hurting envy, and I also agreed to separate them out, just because they were brothers and didn't want to make trouble and let people watch jokes. In these years, the people in the village know best what life our family has had. I haven't complained, nor hated, let alone go to the old yard to open my mouth to you or stretch out my hand. Since you are going to make trouble, then let's take a good look at what happened back then. The medical expenses that should be paid must not be less. Qin Kuiyang is an honest person, but it doesn't mean that an honest person has no brains. He was suddenly strong, not only frightened the old lady, but also the three brothers and wives behind her. They are very clear about what happened back then, and they also know that they are wrong. If they really want to make trouble, they will definitely not get it well. In 6 years, the second family of Qin had spent much money to treat Qin Xian, but they couldn't bear the detailed calculation. If you really let them memorize them all, can you afford to memorize them? The old courtyard should indeed bear the medical expenses of Qin Xian. Is not that right? If you hurt someone else's girl, you don't need to be treated, but you actually drove the family out for singles. I have never seen such a shameless person. Isn't that? If I hadn't personally participated in the birth of Qin's second child by Madame Lin back then, I would have suspected that Qin's second child was not his own. It is said that the poor mountains and the bad waters lead to the evil people. There are a lot of the evil people in Shankle village, but there are also many simple people.